Good evening. Welcome to State of Business on our television. I'm Ashing Sani Veer Singh. Let's have a look at the headlines for today. Central bank data shows that the Sri Lankan rupee appreciated by 1.1% against the US dollar during the year up to the 14th of October 2019. The Elections Commission warns that having the name in the voters' registry will do nothing unless the voter brings a valid identity card to the polling station. News in detail. Sri Lanka's tourism sector earnings were estimated at 2,380 million US dollars during the first 8 months of 2019 compared to 2,971 million US dollars during the corresponding period of 2018. Latest external sector performance report of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka shows. According to the latest data from the central bank, earnings from the tourism sector were estimated at 270 million US dollars in August 2019 in comparison to 376 million US dollars in August 2018. Central bank announced that the tourist arrivals rose steadily, recovering from the impact of the Easter Sunday attacks. Accordingly, arrivals increased by 21% to 143,587 in August 2019 from 115,701 in July 2019. Meanwhile, the year-on-year decline of arrivals narrowed to 28.3% in August 2019 compared to the drop of 46.9% in July and 57% in June 2019. Gross official reserves stood at US dollars 8.5 billion by end of August 2019, equivalent to 5.1 months of imports. Meanwhile, total foreign assets, which consist of gross official reserves and foreign assets of the banking sector, amounted to US dollars 11.3 billion as at end of August 2019, which was equivalent to 6.8 months of imports. The Sri Lankan rupee appreciated by 1.1% against the US dollar during the year up to the 14th October 2019. Reflecting the cross-currency movements, the rupee appreciated against other major currencies except for the Japanese yen and the Canadian dollar during this period. International Monetary Fund's Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva states that the global economy is now in a synchronized slowdown. And the widespread deceleration means that the growth in 2019 will fall into its lowest rate since the beginning of the decade. Kristalina Georgieva made these remarks delivering the first speech as the managing director of the IMF last week.
2 years ago, the global economy was in synchronized upswing. Measured by GDP, nearly 75% of the world was accelerating. Today, even more of the world economy is moving in sync. But, unfortunately, this time growth is decelerating. To be precise, in 2019, we expect slower growth in nearly 90% of the world. In other words, the world economy is now in synchronized slowdown. And this widespread deceleration means that growth this year will fall to its lowest rate since the beginning of the decade. We have spoken in the past about the dangers of trade disputes. Now we see that they are actually taking a toll. Global trade growth has come to almost standstill. In part because of trade tensions, worldwide manufacturing activity and investment have weakened substantially. There is a serious risk that services and consumption could also soon be affected.
Thus, considering the synchronized slowdown of the global economy, the International Monetary Fund yesterday lowered global growth in 2019 to 3%. Now we have IMF Chief Economist and Director of the Research Department, Geetha Gopinath, speaking to Bloomberg media outlet about lowering the global growth rates.
This is the lowest since the global financial crisis, a 3% number. It's a combination of factors, including the trade tensions, but also some country-specific factors in emerging and developing economies. To get to a position where we have more countries in a recession-like environment, that's when global growth goes below 2.5%. And we certainly don't have that in our projection.
IMF Chief Economist Geetha Gopinath also noted that durable solutions are needed to solve the hampered USA-China trade relations in order to stop further sinking of the global economy.
The negative impact of these trade policies are coming a lot through confidence effects. And if we don't think that there is going to be a durable solution, these effects will continue to have a very weak manufacturing, very weak global trade. And we need to stop that.
Minister of Economic Reforms and Public Distribution Dr. Harsha De Silva urged British businesses to take advantage of the Sri Lanka's rapidly transformed economic landscape for mutual benefit. He made this open invitation while presenting the project named as Opportunity Sri Lanka, which encompasses Sri Lanka's strategic location, unparalleled market access to South Asia, Europe and America, and a talented workforce with a willingness to do business with the world. Minister of Economic Reforms and Public Distribution Dr. Harsha De Silva delivered the keynote address at the Sri Lanka Investment Forum in London recently, as organised by the High Commission of Sri Lanka in London in association with the Ministry of Development Strategies and International Trade, Board of Investment of Sri Lanka, the London Stock Exchange Group and the Sri Lanka Association of Software and Services Companies. The forum held at the London Stock Exchange was attended by more than 120 participants, including 70 representatives from the corporate sector, 18 from British institutions and associations, and cross-party parliamentarians and senior government officials from the UK. The sectors represented at the forum were IT and IT-enabled services, manufacturing, logistics, tourism infrastructure, financial services, education and skills development, renewable energy, among others. Welcoming the participants at the event, High Commissioner Manisha Gunasekara said the special bond that the UK enjoys with Sri Lanka due to historical reasons was essentially a force for good in sustaining the centrality of Sri Lanka's investment and trade relationship with the UK. The UK, which absorbs nearly 10% of Sri Lanka's total exports, is the second single largest export destination and also the fifth largest FDI-sourced country for Sri Lanka. Presentations on Sri Lanka's macroeconomic outlook and investment opportunities were made by Senior Deputy Governor, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, and Chairman, Board of Investment of Sri Lanka, Mangala Yapa. Stay tuned for more news after this short break. Welcome back after the break. And now we will be bringing you the current events on the political side. Chairman of the Elections Commission Mahinda Deshapriya says that voters should have any valid document to prove his or her identity when casting the vote in the forthcoming presidential election. Addressing a media briefing today, Chairman Deshapriya also requested people to bring the national identity card or any document such as the driving license and passport which is not expired to prove their identification. Addressing the today's media briefing, Chairman of the Election Commission Mahinda Deshapriya stressed that the voters should have a proper document to prove the identity and that he or she may not be permitted to vote without it, even if the name is in the voters' registry. He also said the upcoming presidential election will exceed 80% of voter turnout, accounting to about 85%. Meanwhile, commenting on the enthusiasm of the voters to cast their vote on the forthcoming presidential election, he also added that some Sri Lankans based in foreign countries will be returning to the country just to vote. He also advised the public servants, police officers and tri-forces not to engage in election campaigns during their work hours.
You can go to the polling booth with that driving license or the passport, but must be valid. Expired passport or expired driving license are not accepted. So please go to the Gram Nilari or state superintendent and get your identity card.
Election monitoring agent PAFREL states that the organization has received 62 complaints since the announcement of the election on September 18th up until the October 14th. Addressing the media briefing held yesterday, Executive Director of PAFREL Rohan Hettiarachchi highlighted that the highest number of complaints lodged against the election violations are on the misuse of state power and resources, accounting to 26 complaints.
With regard to the complaints, we have reported 63 complaints up to now. The biggest complaint so far we have received misuse the government resources and the government power. It has reported from the central government, provincial council as well as the local authorities in a different way. They are misusing the government resources and the power. Especially, most of the time we have reported giving the job opportunities in the government ministries as well as the provincial level. And a lot of development program is taking place during the elections campaigning period, and also the welfare scheme is introduced by especially the Samurdhi authority, and we have reported to the elections commission and we sent the letter to the director general.
Moving into more business news, Sri Lanka Tea Board announces that the national tea production in the country during the month of September this year increased by 12.12% in comparison to the tea production in September last year. Sri Lanka Tea Board in a statement said that the production of low-grown teas has increased in correspondence to the September 2018, whereas the production of high-grown and medium-grown in comparison to 2018 have declined. Sri Lanka Tea Board announced that the tea production in the month of September stood by over 2 million kilograms in comparison to over 1 million kilograms in 2018. Thus, it shows an increase of 2.3 million kilograms, which accounts to 12.12% growth against the corresponding month of 2018. Moreover, low-grown tea sector shows a decrease in correspondence to the September 2018. Meanwhile, cumulative tea production for the period of January to September 2019 shows an increase of 4.35% respectively against last year, along with a production of about 232,726,464 kilograms. Acting Secretary of Foreign Affairs Ahmad A. Jawad states by ensuring that the Commonwealth takes a fair, equitable, inclusive and sustainable approach to ocean economic development and protection, country can derive greater benefits for the welfare of people and future generations. He made these remarks at the first meeting of the Mangrove Ecosystems and Livelihood Action Group under the Commonwealth Blue Charter, which started on 7th of October in Negombo. During the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting 2018 held in London, realizing the importance of mangroves at a time when Sri Lanka is ranked as number 2 in the Global Climate Risk Index, Sri Lanka committed to champion the Mangrove Ecosystems and Livelihoods Action Group of the Commonwealth Blue Charter. Thus, Sri Lanka is one of the 12 countries that took steps to lead 9 action groups under the Blue Charter, a commitment made by 53 Commonwealth member states to work together to solve ocean-related problems. Thus, speaking at the opening ceremony, Acting Secretary of the Ministry of Mahawali Development and Environment, Mapa Pathirana, briefed on some of the key achievements the ministry has taken in relation to the mangrove preservation. The establishment of a special task force for mangrove restoration, drafting a dedicated national policy and guidelines on conservation and sustainable utilization of mangrove ecosystems, and pursuing a special cabinet decision aiming at preventing conversion of mangrove areas to other land uses are some of those. Stay tuned for stock updates after this short break. Welcome back after the break. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a mixed note today. The all-share price index dropped 3.86 points to close at 5,836.62, and the S&P SL 20 gained 3.06 points to close at 2,881.06. The turnover was 540 million rupees and over 36 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. That's all the news for today. Join us tomorrow at the same time. Until then, take care.